Good afternoon. This tutorial is going to be about the Fahrenheit 451 final prompt that is due on Monday, October 6th. So you want to get started on this as soon as you can. You already have the actual outline and the fill-in-the-blank essay available to you. You received that today, September 30th. You need to make sure that you have a rough draft due on Friday, on October 3rd. That is something you want to get done before the period's over so that you have enough time to either peer edit or type it or have myself or another student look at the paper to see if it was completed and if there's any changes that need to be made. So I wanted to do this so that you had a little bit more of an explanation than the 15 to 20 minutes that I was given in class to do that after the end of Fahrenheit. This prompt is convoluted. It is complex. This is what analysis means. Analysis is drawing connections between two different types of things in an essay or in a piece of literature, connecting together and developing the meaning behind that. In this case, with this prompt, I have you guys connecting literary elements, and I've enumerated them for you. That is, I listed them out for you in the prompt. And I want you to take those literary elements, which I have 3 of them on, and I want you to connect them to 2 themes. If you notice, the types of literary elements, including character development, strong imagery, and allegorical allusions, are things that we've discussed in class. Particularly, character development is part of a worksheet that you have already hopefully filled out, at least in partial, if not completed by Thursday. We have 3 characters in there, Clarice, Beatty, and Granger, characters that create and develop Montag as a person through various interactions and dialogue. We did a strong imagery worksheet in the very beginning, and you've been keeping a reading journal of your Saming Matters throughout the course of the novel. If you have not been doing that, you want to go online, find websites that have lists of quotes from Fahrenheit, and use that as sort of a shortcut to analyzing the literature. Allegorical allusions is probably the most difficult one, so we'll take that in turn as we need to. But it's essentially literature that is quoted within the novel. Allegorical means story, or it's developed as a part of the story. And you can identify those further from your Saming Matters, or again, a shortcut through research online. Themes are reoccurring ideas in the story, subjects in the story that reveal the author's views of society, or telling you something about how society should operate or shouldn't operate through warnings. The themes are reoccurring messages about society that are discussed in the novel. So I want you to make connections, and I know this is a complex topic, but let's take it in turn. Looking at the prompt with me, it says, to what extent does literary elements such as character development, interaction, strong imagery, and allegorical allusions contribute to the thematic meaning of Fahrenheit 451? Stopping there, I've identified the 3 literary elements. Again, literary elements are aspects of the novel that are used inside of the story in order to further the message of the story. Literary elements that are enumerated here, again listed out: character development / interaction. Right now I want you to stop and identify the character that you want to talk about. Each character in the story, Mildred, Clarice, Faber, Beatty, Granger, Montag, these are your main characters. Each of those characters obviously connect from Montag, who is the protagonist, and all these side characters, or these auxiliary characters, are there to develop Montag as a protagonist, as he develops, learns, questions, has conflict with, and then is reborn as sort of a thinker. You want to talk about the character interaction. So you can actually talk about it from Mildred's perspective instead of Montag's if you find her to be a more interesting character, or if you happen to have more reading journal quotes about Mildred or about Beatty. Beatty spoke probably the most besides Montag. So identify right now which character you want to talk about, their interactions and how they represent certain themes. Mildred represents suicide. Beatty represents this sort of authority figure, the idea of society being a sense of authority, Big Brother, dystopia. Faber represents cowardliness in the face of strong society. This is a theme of questioning society. Clarice represents questioning society. And of course you can always just do Montag. So again, identify a character now. Number 2 here in my literary elements is strong imagery. Page 1, it was a pleasure to burn. It was a pleasure to see things blackened and changed. That whole section in page 1 through 3 was strong imagery. In fact, the whole novel is built off of your senses, trying to get you to identify and feel what is going on in the story. So you want to identify right now in your reading journals what is imagery, what are sensory words to represent something, and how that contributes to themes. And thirdly, allegorical allusions. Your allegorical allusions are, again, quotes that the story gives of other literature within the story. This is when, like, for instance, the old woman who is developing her martyrdom right before killing herself and speaking about how they will light such a candle as will never be put out. If you find that quote, and you should have written it down, that could be one of 2 of your allegorical allusions. Find one more and connect it to a theme of redemption or forgiveness or martyrdom, sacrifice. These 3 things, these 3 elements that I'm asking, I want you to tell me, how do they contribute? And the word contribute's important because it connects. That's your connection. If you've ever had someone tell you to analyze something but never gave you the definition, that's what it is. How does one type of thing connect with another? Sometimes you analyze characters by connecting one character with another, and you usually do that by Venn diagram. But there are other types of connections that can be made. Analysis. You can analyze plot details and how that connects to themes. You can connect diction or word choice to themes. You can connect dialogue to plot development. And so there's all sorts of ways in which you can make connections. It's your mind working to build meaning within the text. Contribute to the thematic meaning of Fahrenheit 451. So I want you to tell me what it means. And so I've reworded it in the second thing. That's the first question right there. But I want you now to identify 3 specific elements. I've already given you the list of elements, but now I want you to tell me the examples of those elements. Again, the examples of those elements in each category. So character development, strong imagery, and allegorical allusions. I've already given you in this tutorial some examples. You can do your own if you'd like. 2 themes. So now, is your theme worksheet very important? You want to make sure that you identify from that themes worksheet what is the themes that you are interested in, or what are the themes that your reading journal most likely touches on. What's something that you could talk the most about? And with an explanation of their meaning. So you want to take the themes and connect the themes with the literary element. Lastly means this is your last paragraph. You sum all the whole thing up, and it's not just a summary. You might have had in the past writing where it's just like, summarize the whole essay at the end and you're good. Or reiterate your prompt if it's a little bit more specific, or reiterate your thesis, which is even better. But this one, I want you to bring it together in a very specific way. I want you to tell me how the elements and themes, again, contribute not just to the connections and meaning of the story, but how it creates a quote-unquote lasting legacy. Why is this novel something we read today? Why is this novel something that seems to be making predictions constantly, not only the decade preceding 1953, for instance, the first televised presidential debate in which images was more important than words and policy? Why does the historical significance of this work, one that we are reading literally 5, 6 decades and almost 7 decades later, this work has precedence? And I want you to tell me why and explain to me why this novel has a lasting legacy, and be clear on it. Say, here are the things that it has predicted, here are the things that maybe will come and happen in the future, and why this work is something to use as a warning for future generations. So here I've explained the prompt. If you're able to do this on your own, and I suggest that you practice doing this and really kind of go through it and say, okay, how did Mr. Morris talk about this prompt? Because every prompt has been created by your teacher or by someone else, if you're taking a test, for instance. And you should be able to identify what are the tasks involved with the prompt. What is it asking me to do? If you can enumerate the things that it's asking you to do, usually you'll identify 2, maybe 3 tasks that it's requiring. And already you'll identify why it is that that question was created the way it was. Again, these things don't just appear out of nowhere. They're from someone else's mind. And they're already thinking about what they know the essay should look like. And so they're hoping that you can also discern what that essay should look like as well. So if you can identify the tasks, you can find, okay, if I have 2 tasks, those become my what? My body paragraphs. If I have 3 tasks, okay, I know that these 3 tasks I'm going to identify in each of these body paragraphs. Almost all classes you can use the same in matter formula in order to create analysis or make connections between what is fact and what is the explanation to the fact connected back to the prompt. So let's go ahead and look at the outline together. Intro paragraph is with an acronym by the name of HOT. So you want to have a HOT intro. Now, this acronym isn't just for looks. It's meant to give you specific explanation of what you do in an intro. You want to hook your reader, and that's the H. Hooking your reader is simply maybe a quote or some kind of creative introduction to what the story is about. It can be a character's representation. It's sort of like the movie trailer inside of your essay. Hooks aren't important to me, and maybe other teachers like creative writing regarding your analytical essays, but for me, getting to the actual content itself is the most important, which leads to the O. You want to introduce your work and orient your reader. So that's what the O means, is orient. So orient your reader, and I've given you already a sort of a model for that in the novel Blank. We all know this is Fahrenheit, but you'll see this again in other essays that we write as well throughout the year. In the novel Fahrenheit 451, written by Ray Bradbury, give me then now what is happening as a sentence summary, a one sentence novel summary that occurs throughout the story. Lastly, in the HOT for your intro is your thesis. Your thesis is technically the most important sentence of the entire essay. It tells me clearly what your argument's going to be and what each paragraph will be about, explaining in detail, not just rewording the prompt, but in detail telling me how it is that you're going to answer the prompt. In a word, it's your answer, or it's your argument. In about a sentence explanation, it is the argument that tells you what each paragraph will be about. And it should be a complex sentence. Now, what it should not be, again, is just rewording the prompt. A bad thesis would be something like this. Fahrenheit 451 has 3 literary elements of character development, strong imagery, and allegorical allusions. And it shows and it contributes to the meaning of the work through 2 themes, period. that would be a bad thesis. Why? Because you've reworded the prompt. You've told me nothing new. All you're doing is telling me that you know how to turn a question into a statement. And I don't really care about that because I developed the prompt. Now I want to see what you have to say about it. Instead, it would need to be something more specific. So instead of saying character development, tell me about something specific about Montag. So you would say something like, in the novel Fahrenheit 451, and so that would be your orient, and you talk about what happens in there. A character goes from one place to another and he becomes a thinker questioning society that wants to burn books. Thesis statement. This character, this is talking about Montag, Montag develops throughout the course of the novel using the strong imagery of metaphor and utilizing sacrificial allusions to other literature to produce or reveal the themes, Bradbury's themes of censorship and rebellion against authority, period. Notice that I've included, instead of just saying two themes, I've actually identified what those themes are. Censorship and rebellion against authority. I didn't just say what the illusion, that there are illusions, but I tried to identify or explain really quickly, and it was kind of imprecise because I was just making it up. But it gives me a sense of what the illusions will be that I talk further about. Same with the imagery. What kinds of imagery? Metaphor? Are we talking about the diction involved? Are we just talking about sensory words? Are we talking about run-on sentences or fragment sentences or sort of stream of consciousness? And so that's where your English 9 skills will have to be developed and activated, your prior knowledge. You should know what a metaphor and a simile is because you're in sophomore. Body paragraph 1 is going to be the same throughout each one of these. Body 2, body 3, or excuse me, body 2 and 3, which are paragraphs 2, 3, and 4. You will basically be doing the same things, but just with a different element and with the same two themes. So notice it's 3 things and 2 things. 3 elements connecting to 2 themes. 3 body paragraphs, 2 same mean matters for each one. So I've already developed that here. And this should be pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go over it very briefly. You always have an intro and a conclusion. Your intro summarizes and introduces your first lit element. So you would say that this story brings about what kind of character interaction? Well, Montag goes from just a depressed person to someone who's ready to take on authority. How do I know that? Well, there's a quote that I have in my reading journal, and it says this from page 20. This means that, and I reword it in my own words. There's the say and the mean explained. And then finally, the matter might be something, you might have just said why it's important when you wrote it down in your reading journal. But now I want you to convert that a little bit. Create a transition. Again, use it to connect. That's what analysis is. Connect your matter, why it's important, to answer the prompt. So this reveals what? Well, this reveals what lit element? This reveals character development. So that's what your first lit element is. So everyone write that in there right now. Character development. Character development. Character development because. And connects to the theme of what? Well, what's the theme that you're choosing? Look back at your theme worksheet. You should have already annotated what theme you want already in the prompt. If you haven't done so, do so now. And you have to tell me because. So it doesn't just say good enough to say that it connects there, but you got to say how. So if you don't do this, I'm going to write on your essay, well, how? How does this work? Show me. Well, you've given me the quote, you've told me what it means, and now you've told me this connects this character to this theme. That's awesome. Just say because how, because why. You're just kind of restating why it is that that thing connects to that thing. And do your best. If you don't quite understand that part, try your best to reiterate. It might feel repetitive at first, but you'll realize that a lot of analysis is repetition because you're trying to emphasize the points that you make. Say mean matter. Do it twice. This time, with the second one, do it with the second lit device. Or excuse me, do it with the second theme, not the second lit device. You're still in the first body paragraph. So connect it to the theme of, well, do a second theme and tell me why this particular element shows the character development and connects to a second theme. Finally, you summarize. Your conclusion should be a summary of how the lit development connects to both themes at once. You can reword your intro and you'd be fine. I'm not really concerned about that because essentially it's the transitions between two paragraphs to let me know, hi, I know how to finish a paragraph properly. Body paragraph 2, which is paragraph 3, is lit element 2. For some of you, there's a spelling error here from the printout. I apologize. It shouldn't say literary element 1. It should say, in fact, literary element 2. You should be able to understand that from the fact that it says body paragraph 2 right next to you. The second element is your imagery. So you're connecting imagery to two themes. Okay, well, I'm going to look at my reading journal and I'm going to find imagery and how it is that I feel a moment in time or feel something going on here because the author has shown it to me, not just told me it. Find two of those. Connect one to one theme, one to another, and you're done. If you don't have imagery or you're not sure how to look for it, go ahead and Google imagery in Fahrenheit 451 and you'll find a host of hit lists and quotes for you to use for your paragraph. So go ahead and do that now. Finally, body paragraph 3. This should say body paragraph 3, not 2. So you want to fix that if there's a problem. Which should have also lit element 3, not 1. Connected to two themes. So again, you take your allusions. So now, what are the works that are used and cited in the novel? And connect those to your two themes as well. How does it reveal those two themes? Saming matters, two of them, and then your conclusion. Finally, the conclusion paragraph. This is in, remember, the last question that I asked for you to do, or the last connection I wanted you to make, is connecting the novel with, finally, what's it about for today? Why is it important for today's readers? What is its legacy is the key word there. And I wanted you to make it in context of history and technology, but really if that's too sort of difficult and you're done with the essay, you want to just finish it, just tell me why it's important to your readers for today. So I give you some starter sentences. This novel teaches future generations what? It also shows that how future technologies should what? You tell me what you think this novel is saying about how technology works in modern society. Should we be relying on it extensively for everything, including our own memory? Should we, when you guys have agendas on the board, should it all be that you just take pictures and not even think about what's being done? Or is there some other type of interaction? Can it be helpful? Should we completely reject it? I know you don't know this unless you did a lot on your Bradbury research. But Bradbury very much rejected most technology throughout his life. And he didn't like computers. He didn't write on computers, didn't have one. Nor did he own a television. So is that a proper role of technology, or do you think there's a better balance there? So give me a sense of how this book has impacted your view of technology, how you think the past is important to study and why, and perhaps that there is something of value here that you've learned over the course of the last month and a half. So please do your best on this. If you have problems, email me. Do your best to have something typed up and ready to turn in by Friday. The typed up rough draft should be typed in on a memory stick or on your School Fusion account so that you can bring it into school and you can swap with a neighbor who has theirs as well. You guys can do an excellent job peer reviewing, getting it finalized for Monday when you need to have it turned in. So this concludes the tutorial. I hope this has been informative for you. And again, if you have any issues, feel free to email me or to bring them up in school in the days ahead. Thank you.